Hello and welcome to the weekly Inside the Lab live experience. We are doing it. We are here, right? We are here for our normal Saturday live show. Got off to a little bit late start, but we had some things to work on behind the scenes. If this is your first time joining us for our weekly live Q&A, I just want to remind you that our live show definitely doubles as a ask me anything or a Q&A session. So if you have any questions and you're here this early in the live stream or if you're watching on the replay, which shout out to our replay viewers, you're gonna hear me saying that more than once, a couple of times here during the live show because we appreciate our replay viewers, right? We appreciate you, you know, invest in stock or investing your time into the live shows after they've already aired. I do try to make them topic centric or topic heavy to give them a little bit of replay value, right? Like after the fact. So shout out to our replay viewers, and I tell you what, replay viewers, if you're here on the replay and you have any questions about anything so far in the live stream or, about the topic in general, if maybe questions in general about PC gaming and maybe why it may seem like everything is so expensive or you can't find, any of the recommended dedicated graphics cards that might be recommended to you by other enthusiasts or what have you. So, if you have any questions about anything related to the topic at any time, do feel free to drop them down in the comment section below. I normally do track the analytics of the replays much long after they've aired, so I will definitely respond to your questions down in the comment section in the future. FYI, if you see the link, because I normally try to schedule the show out a few days before it airs, but if you come across the link either on my socials or right here on YouTube, then ask your questions still very much on the comment section because I'll read them right here during the live stream, even if you're unable to make it. And I'll also respond to your comment and we'll also leave a timestamp to where you can find your question being answered. So yeah, let me jump over to the chat as we give a few more viewers time to trickle on in. As we got my guy Ant says, "What's up, brother? It's good to see you, Sparta Rules. What's up, Sparta Rules 1993? It's good to see our returning viewers, right? As always, good to see you, Sparta Rules. Um, yeah, I mean, again, and as you've seen with the title in this live stream description, or just the title of this live stream, and that's Perception X Reality, or Perception versus Reality, and the truth about PC gaming in 2021. You likely have seen other creators' thumbnails and videos to the extent about, what's going on with all the GPUs or where are all the graphics cards. And if you're not in the know, right? If you're not in the know and you're just like, well, I'm just here because I've been trying to build a gaming PC, but every time I watch a video and the graphics card that's centered around that video, let's use the graphics card, the 1660 Ti, the graphics card we used in the best gaming PC to build under $900 in 2021. Um, that graphics card costs about 30 to 40% more than it did at the time of shooting that video. So if you're just now trying to come into the PC platform, you might be asking yourself, what in the heck is going on with the PC market? Why is everything so expensive or hard to find, right? So that's one thing we're going to be talking about in this, during our weekly live stream, right? Or during our weekly show, which if you weren't here for it last week, we officially branded it the Inside the Lab weekly live experience, right? We got to come up with some fancy graphics here on the show. But again, if you're just now joining us, welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live experience, our weekly live show where, excuse me, we are discussing I guess you could say the state of the PC market or PC gaming in general here in 2021 because graphics cards, new and old, are still out of stock everywhere with no improvement in sight. Building a gaming PC is either really expensive right now or it's near impossible to do. And so, what does this mean going forward for the PC community, right? For the PC gaming community. That's what we're discussing in this live show today, while of course answering any and all of your questions along the way. So again, if you're new here to the channel, welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live Q&A experience. I'm Terrence, your host, your conductor, and operator of this here ride. And I tell you what, let's ready up and begin because I'm excited. I'm pumped. Be sure to give this live show, give this stream a like if you're here, if you're just now checking in. If you can't hang out for the whole duration of the show, it's okay. Our live shows definitely do run a little bit of time, in excess of more than 2 hours. But Today the topic is very centric, and most of you here in this community, either you already have your gaming PC, right? Or you have most of your parts, or you even have a general idea of what you may want to upgrade to, right? Maybe you're in a position to where you have some disposable income and you want to, finally say upgrade your RAM or upgrade your video card, which we're going to talk about. Really, that's going to be the star of this show, right? And that's just your graphics card in general, because that's your central component that's going to deliver the experience most gamers are trying to target, right? If you're just using your PC for, micromanaging tasks or checking emails, doing schoolwork, working in Microsoft's suite, right? So Excel and what have you, and Word and documents and what have you. But if you're trying to play games on your machine, you're likely going to want components that are geared towards delivering playable frame rates in your games, right? That is essentially going to start with your video card. It's one of the reasons why, supply has improved on the CPU front, which we're going to talk about that, right? We're going to talk about where, where stock has improved and where it still needs to get better, right? Because we're on the cusp of another GPU launch, right? For those of you who don't know, March 3rd, or just earlier in the week, AMD did their 6700 XT reveal. They premiered it as a live video. So we're going to get the 12 gigabyte GDDR6 6700 XT, and I did do a video on it, right? I did do a video on it, and I tweeted about it. I said, you know what, hey fam, are y'all okay with doing a video on this? Because the RTX 3090 6 months later review is much overdue. So I pocketed, I pocketed that video, and it's still scheduled to come out next week. But I digress. Cliff says, "Greetings, ladies and gentlemen." Cliff, it's good to see you, Cliff. Welcome to the show, brother. Another returning viewer. It's always good to see XLR Gaming. And yeah, we're overall just kind of talking about this PC gaming here in 2021, and perception versus reality. If you're if you're just trying to come into the platform, right? If you're just now wanting to build a gaming PC, and maybe you haven't been keeping up with the news, right? And the shortages and the scalping and everything, this live stream is especially for you, right? Definitely you're going to want to stick around for the full duration of this live stream. But I tell you what, without further ado, let's jump into it as more people trickle on in, and start with some quick early housekeeping. You guys and gals know, join our email list. Unity starts with you. Email address, first name, that's all we need. You can find the link in either the description box or the pinned comment. But notifications could be so much better on these social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, even right here on YouTube. But on the email list, I can communicate with you directly. I also do want to add, for those of you who are watching right here and right now, or on the replay, that the Discord, the membership only Discord, if you will, for the community, is essentially up and running. Just got to start sending out the invites. So again, this will be for channel members only to start out with, but those of you who are signed up on the email list will get the first notification to sign up. After that, then it will be behind essentially a paywall to as an extreme measure to vet community members or what have you. The Discord will be only available to members, right? And I consider those of you who are signed up for our email list, VIP members, if you will. So sign up for it now, because that invite will be going out here very soon. Totally free, and you can always unsubscribe should you not want to stick around. Then we have the merch store, which I need to upload the new graphics. We have new merch that is coming onto the store, especially with the anniversary of the channel here coming up in April. We got to get some year 2 merch here loaded and on display. But check out the merch store now. There's something for everybody: soft lines, hard lines, all different types of items you can choose from. And then last but not least, our website, which here recently I did make some optimization changes here on the back end of the website, just to make it run faster, a little bit more efficient, make it look better, or what have you. So definitely check out the website. Give it a watch. It's essentially an extension of the content, right? You can contact me directly. Check out the brand blog, if you will, our full videography, all that good stuff. Learn more about the brand message and mission over there. All good stuff. So yeah, give it a whirl. So yeah, let me jump over into the chat. Planks PK says hi. It's good to see you. What's happening? Welcome to the stream. And I see we got a few more people. Do be sure to give the stream a like as more people trickle on in. It will help us get it out to more people here on the platform and bring more people into the show. So do remember to give the stream a like. If you're just now joining, again, we're discussing, the truth about PC gaming, perception versus reality, right? One of my favorite, I guess, puns you can say, right? Perception versus reality. What you hope and inspire things to be versus what they really are can be truly different in terms of dealing with circumstances that might prevent you from achieving the things you want to do. For the sake of this live stream, we're going to say that's building a gaming PC, right? Like if you're here on this channel, if you're here right now in the live stream, chances are you either A, already have a gaming PC, you want to upgrade your video card, or maybe you're unsure if you should upgrade your video card. Chances are whatever you have now, whatever you're using now, is much better than what's available on the market right now, especially in terms of new graphics cards. So we're going to talk about that and more, a whole lot more, during this live show. So do be sure to stick around. Do be sure to give the stream a like, and let's welcome in first time viewers. If you're here, I see we got a lot of people joining us. If you're here and this is your first time this is your first time sitting through our weekly live experience, do feel free to ask any of your questions along the way. I don't save them for the end of the live shows. I like to answer them while you are here, just in case you have to leave and you don't have the opportunity to have your question answered. I don't know it all, by all means, fam. I don't know it all. But what I do know, I am willing to share and for the most part help you find a solution to your problems. Plus, this community is very knowledgeable and always willing to help. So again, if you're here watching and you're lurking, it's all good. You don't have to come out just quite yet, but if anytime you have a question during this live show about PC gaming specifically, maybe you're on the fence and you're unsure if you're ready to make the jump over, right? Ask away, fam. Like, ask away. That's part of our mission here in this community, is to convert as many gamers over to the platform as possible, even in these trying times of what I've called the GPU anomaly, the bot bombardment or what have you, right? All of those things. Even during these trying times of global shortages and supply constraints, the mission overall is to convert as many gamers over to this platform, because this is the way. This is the way to experience our video games, right? Like, we talked about that on a few different live shows, right? Like maybe on 21, when I refer to my numbers, I'm talking about episode numbers, right? But on like 20, this is the 25th live stream, right? Which I was going to make it, kind of anniversary, if you will, if that's a word. But I talked with it over my wife, and I was just like, 25 is good, but I think 50 is one heck of an accomplishment. 25 live streams is really decent, but I think 50 live shows is a heck of an accomplishment. So once we get to 50, we'll make that a big deal. But here we are on our 25th live show, and we talked about how PC gaming is the pinnacle of gaming, right? This platform is the pinnacle of gaming. So the idea, right? The idea is to convert as many gamers over to this platform, because this is the best way to experience video games of what we call the digital flip book, right? Consoles have a purpose, but PCs have character. Playing on PC is where it's at, fam. But perception versus reality, right? We have to remain grounded, and we have to come to the realization that our expectations are not going to be what we hope them to be, especially as tech enthusiasts, right? By tech enthusiasts, I mean you may have more than one dedicated system. You may have, more than one specific type of component, right? Like I know XLR gaming. Let's use XLR gaming for example. I got to put him on the spot, right? Because XLR Cliff will tag me over on Twitter and share cases. We love cases. Like I like shopping for cases. I have cases sitting around that I can't really use, but I might have saw them and fell in love with them, and at one point said, you know what, I really like this case, right? But the reality is it stops there. There's not much more we could go with that. But as tech enthusiasts, we enjoy our hardware to some capacity, even with what you have now. Let's say, like I know Planks PK has a PC, right? Let's say Planks likes to game and maybe say create content. You have that luxury, that freedom of doing so, right? Maybe you want to tinker around with your system, just overall being a tech enthusiast, right? We have to lower expectations coming into 2021, especially if you already have a system. Maybe you've been sitting on your graphics card for a while, right? Maybe you said I'm gonna skip over 20 series to try to maybe wait for the next maybe 30 series. I'll wait for ray tracing and DLSS to mature. I'll wait for graphic drivers to mature, what have you. Wait for more games to adopt these newer technologies. So here comes the 30 series. 30 series came around now, and guess what? It's very hard to find. It's very hard to find right along with AMD's latest and greatest. Now, again, we're going to talk about this more in the live show because overall, it's hard to find any and all graphics cards. Any and all graphics cards. And in that 6700 XT, right, that video where I published, I believe, on Thursday, right, like we shot, record, edited, and published that video, created the thumbnail all in less than 24 hours. But in that video, I talked about that I'm going to try to get my hands on the 6700 XT. Right, it's set to launch on March 18th, 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time for me. So, I'm certainly up around that time, and maybe could try to have my hands on the ready. But I'm not very optimistic on my chances of being able to actually get one. You dig what I'm saying? Tricion, it's good to see you, fam. Tricion says impossible. I got the notification. I mean, that's good, fam. What's up, Tricion? It's good to see you. That's good. It's good to hear when you guys and gals in the community lets me know that YouTube is definitely sending out the notifications. But I do want to keep in mind that YouTube and a lot of these other social media platforms, they rank live video higher than, say, my normal vlogs or normal videos. So there's a chance that maybe the Full Metal Jacket vlog that I did on the 6700 XT didn't hit your subscription box. But if you didn't, don't head there now. It's a very short watch. Check that video out after this live stream because, yeah, I mentioned that I'm going to try to get my hands on the 6700 XT. It'll be perfect for the small form factor build that I want to do, especially with AMD also in that keynote announcing that the resizable bar or smart access memory will be available on Ryzen 3000 series CPUs. So I'm like, hey, that's awesome. That breathes new life into like the likes of the 3800X and the 3700 and the 3600X, or even the 3600 for a CPU that's like normally under $200. If you can catch it on sale, it's about $169, and I think that's an amazing value for money 6-core 12-thread CPU. But that's if you either already have a GPU that you are content with, one that powers your monitor and your resolution and your refresh rate at an acceptable level, one that is playable for you. Maybe you're just ready for a platform hop. Well, the good news is Ryzen stock has improved, right? Like Ryzen stock has improved, and by stock I don't mean their numbers. Their market or what have you. I mean the Ryzen 5000 series stock. But let's jump right into it. Starting with our first slide, and that's again perception versus reality. The truth about PC gaming in 2021. We're going to talk about it. And I'll tell you what, right here, right now, before we kick things off, I have a question for you, for those of you who are right here in the community. That's XLR Gaming, Bad Habit, Thunder, Tricion, and Planks, all of you. And those of you who are, here, you haven't yet came out and joined us in the chat, right? Let me know what your experience has been as a PC gamer in 2021. You don't have to answer the question now, and I know we're on a little bit of delay. But think about it. Let me know what your experience has been as a PC gamer in 2021, right? Now, if you are trying to get on the PC platform, let me know how that experience has been for you. Tell us down in the chat throughout the duration of this live show as I'll bounce back and forth and share some of those experiences. We'll kind of add a little bit more commentary on how we can help you overcome some of those barriers or some of those issues. But again, the topic of this weekly live show is perception versus reality. Hey fam, I warned you I was going to say it a lot, right? But perception versus reality. For, when it comes to this platform, right, knowing and appreciating the superiority of the PC or the superiority of a PC in general as a platform. When in fact the truth is that that supremacy, if you will, is non-existent. At least right now in 2021, right? To put it blunt and simple, fam, the truth about PC gaming in 2021, you know what the truth is? The truth is it's not easy, right? Roll credits, keep it going, right? In the show. Nope. We're going to go into that second part of that statement, right? It's not easy. That is the truth about PC gaming in 2021. It's not easy for a lot of different reasons why. Most importantly, the biggest reason why, in my opinion, is that a $1,000 budget, what you can do with a $1,000 budget right now, if you had 1,000, if you had 1,000 to put on a system right now, $1,000 budget right now, that won't net you a system, custom or the like, that you could get less than a year ago, or even on a sub $800 system, right? Like it's not going to be the same performance metric. It's not going to be within the same performance level. It's just not. Most importantly, the reason why that is that price is reflective of that $1,000 budget is reflective of a dedicated video card, right? A competent dedicated video card. And I'm talking about at a time where, check it out, right? Remember just last few years ago, and we talked about this on a live stream. We talked about this on a live show where I said, hey, the 5700 XT and the 5600 XT and the 1660 Super and the 1660 Ti, I was recommending those graphics cards. They were in stock before the RTX 30 series launch and AMD's RX 6000 series launch. They were in stock. They were around $400 5700 XTs, 5600 XTs, and 1660 Ti's, all solid options under $300, and 1650 Supers under $200. Remember, fam, we reviewed the 1650 Super right here on this channel. One of my favorite videos that I've produced as a content creator for this channel. But at the time, I paid under $200 for that graphics card. I bought it at a Best Buy. It was around last summer. And I paid $189 for it. That was with, plus tax, right? MSI. It's right here in the box. But right now, that's not the case. This same graphics card is you either A, can't find it, or it's going to cost about 50 to 60% more than that $200 price tag. Same thing with all of those graphics cards I just mentioned, right? Like you're not going to find a 5700 XT at $400 or a 5600 XT under $300. About 6-7 months ago, you certainly could. You could have built a capable system with any of those graphics cards, especially like a 1660 Ti. You could have built a capable 6-core or even 8-core Zen Plus based CPU or B450 combination, right? A 2700X and a B450 motherboard for about $300-400. Throw the graphics card 7 system. I mean, we're going to go into that and more. Keep that $1,000 budget in the back of your mind, right? As I jump over and get caught up in the chat really here fast, and I see we have a few more people join us. Welcome to the. Let me switch back here. Let me switch back here and let me greet our viewers, because I see we had a few more people who just joined into our weekly live, the Inside the Lab weekly live experience. Welcome to the Inside the Lab weekly live experience. Two things. I do welcome you to give this stream a like, and if this is your first time here, I also do welcome you to subscribe. We go live once a week here on the channel discussing all things PC gaming and, of course, answering your questions. Let me jump over to the chat really fast, get caught up before we progress and our, leading up to the start of our topic, right? And that's perception versus reality. The truth of PC gaming. It's not easy right now, fam. But what did we talk about last week, right? No player in the wild. There are ways to overcome these hurdles. There are certain ways to overcome these barriers, these barriers to entry, right, with PC gaming, especially right now in 2021. Let me jump over because we see, Tricion has said, and Bad Habit says, what's up, or to hi to everyone. Bad Habit is good to see you, fam. Man, I love, I appreciate when I see our reoccurring viewers. I really do. It really warms my heart. Like on some real, I'm an adult. It is what it is, but it really warms my heart seeing you guys and gals, even for our very limited female crew. It's good. I really do appreciate you guys coming back for our live show and just coming in and fellowship and hanging out and joining the discussion. It's good to see Bad Habit, Tricion, and Thunder says, "What's up to Tricion, who's my son?" Bad Habit says, "Wow, feels early today. Could it be because the sun is still out at 5 o'clock?" That's an interesting point you make, Bad Habit, because yeah, normally I lead off with what's the weather and what's the mood like here in my side of the world, and I'm over on the East Coast over here in the state of Maryland. And you're right, it is certainly still daylight outside for it to be 5 o'clock, and that certainly wasn't the case. Hopefully, spring is on its way as I'm over this cold weather. Glad there's no more snow. I'm not a big fan of the snow, but I'm glad we're kind of coming out of this snow season, if you will, and getting into spring. One of my favorite holidays. I love that the seasonal change, the seasonal shift between say like April and May and June. One of my favorite times of the year, fam. I just love that time of the year. Side note, spring and fall. Favorite two parts of the year. Spring and fall. I love the March, April, May, or April, May, June part of the year, and then I love the September, October, November part of the year. Two of my favorite parts of the year. But yeah, still light outside, but that's awesome. I mean, it does feel early. We started a little late, and I do apologize about that. But we here and we're rocking. Planks PK says, "I'm building my PC." Awesome. I mean, Planks, are you doing it now, fam? Are you planning to build it? Like what? How many? Are you? Have you acquired all of your parts? Right? Or are you still shopping for more of your parts? Do let us know what stage you are at with the build process, and if you have any questions along the way, right? We have a lot of knowledgeable members here in this community, always willing to help, and we don't shame nobody around here. Everybody's welcome. Builds of all sides, mentalities of all sides. This is a family friendly environment, fam. We like to keep it just nice and chill. Tracion says 2021 hasn't really affected my own build really, but sadly I have to delay PC builds for others. So it may not have affected you personally, right? But it affected your hustle of building PCs. So to some extent, even as a tech enthusiast, you fall under that category as being an independent system integrator, right? Building PCs for clients. It's affected you as a tech enthusiast. And we led with that at the beginning of the live show, that it's either affected you as a tech enthusiast who are already well versed and already in the know about what's going on within the market and the industry, or you're looking to jump on board of the platform and build a PC. Like, for example, let's say Planks PK, who says, "I'm building my PC." Right? Like, I haven't yet got there, but I'm getting ready to build it, right? But as to where you, Tricion, you already, do it as a service, as a tech enthusiast. And yeah, these things have really it's more so 2020, right? We just kind of kicked in 2021, but these problems were evident in 2020, right? In mid 2020. And then we even had the GPU shortage before 2020, right? Like slightly before then. So all interesting stuff, and we're going to talk about it more. Cliff says, or XLR Gaming says, "As for gaming, lots of great games are enjoying gaming on PC as a hobby builder and small fries. So it's brutal. I can no longer build. It's not feasible." Yeah, it's really difficult if you're an enthusiast to say, to build more than one system, or even recommend a system. The approach has to be very different than what most of us are accustomed to, or our approach to where we would have approached clients, if you will, a few months ago, right? Like last year, how we recommend systems and how we recommend builds and configurations. Much of that has changed because in most cases, our clients, right, for those trying to bring PC gamers into the fold, into the economy or the ecosystem of PC gaming. Because we said, if you don't want to build, that's perfectly fine, right? Like if you're uncomfortable with the build process, or maybe you have a limitation or something that's preventing you to be able to build, that's perfectly fine. There's reasons why people like Cliff, XLR Gaming, Tricion, and myself, and for everybody else who does this as a service, is to help you still be able to get in this industry, right, at an affordable price. XLR Gaming says, and Bad Habit says, always nice to be here. It's always good to see you guys show up. And XLR Gaming says, "Zombified in the house." Yeah, Mr. Zombified is in the house. But switch it back to perception versus reality. I mean, it's we're at a time where we miss those 5700 XTs. Imagine how much value a 5700 XT could offer even right now at its $399 price point. But it's not around, right? Like you go, let's use that example we were just talking about. You want to build a system for your client, and they're adamant about, oh, but hey, I really want a gaming PC. I understand it might cost a little bit more. Here's my budget. Here's $1,000. What could you do? I can't spend no more than $1,000. That is the ceiling. If it's 1,025, you may have to change some things to stay under 1,000. Like I don't have any more than $1,000. When we are configuring these systems, it hurts, right? It hurts to not only see that graphics cards are widely unavailable everywhere, but it's another to see them marked up, right, to nearly 50%, which is why shopping for parts is no longer the fun part, right? Early in the live stream, we had talked about shopping for computer cases. It's one of my personal favorite parts of the whole process, pun intended, of configuring a PC, and that's shopping for the case. Rather that's a case for myself, or a case for the client, or a case for a family member, somebody I know, somebody close to me. I enjoy the process. I really like the part of shopping for a case. Before, it was also shopping for a video card, especially if I had, detailed insight or context about the needs of that particular client, right? Like what were they trying to achieve from their system? What resolution did they want to game at? And what frame rate, what FPS did they want? What ballpark figure did they want to kind of be in, depending on the games specific to them, right? And overall, shopping right now, it's not fun, right? Shopping for parts is no longer the fun part. It takes a lot of like due diligence and just legwork to either try to find a graphics card in general, which you kind of feel like is a is fruitless. It'll just you won't win, right? Like you won't win. You'll find that red out of stock on most of these e-tailers and retailers' websites. XR Gaming says people are going pre-built at these crazy times. I can't compete with big system integrators. No way. Not even going used or new mix. I don't blame them. Lots of new users are opting for pre-builds. Yeah, and I don't disagree. Originally, I was going to plan this live stream, or maybe next week, I was going to explore why that is a viable option. But like you used for in your example, like you said, it hurts because you can't compete with larger system integrators like Origin PC and things of that nature. So it is trickling down, right? When Triceon came on and we mentioned that, the GPU anomaly, or the GPU anomaly is affecting tech enthusiasts to some capacity, even if you're not building right now, even if you're just doing it as a service, it is affecting you. And shopping for parts is no longer the fun part, right? Ryzen 5000 stock has improved. It's gotten better. It's gotten really better, especially at Micro Center and Amazon. Most importantly at MSRP. I did a video on the army of scalpers, right? Like the time where the video where we talked about where it was at an all-time high, and I believe 5800 X's were going for like over $1,000. That's not the case now. You can find them at MSRP over on Amazon and Micro Center in abundance, but it's not the case for graphics cards. Not quite yet. But Ryzen 5000s, they're no longer, the 5000 series CPUs, they're no longer really being scalped at ridiculous prices. They have come down dramatically, right? Most listers are just coming to their senses to where, well, I can't sell the CPU now for 20-30% markup. The supply is there now. Before, the supply wasn't there and the demand was at an all-time high for Ryzen 5000 series CPUs. But now that, supply has gotten better and it's improved, the scalpers have come down on their listings, and they've just come down dramatically. Bad Habit says it's a whole new ball game with AMD really competing with Intel and Nvidia. 2021 parts are plentiful. Either way you go, you're guaranteed to build a really good system, no matter your budget. Yeah, and so many, in a way that's true, and we're going to talk about why that is, because it fits right into the example I want to use for this live stream. And Cliff says Intel stock is pretty good, fam. I know lots of y'all are cold on the blue team though, but they are available. Yeah, and really here in the community, I try to encourage that you don't pick sides. Like you don't pick sides. We do a lot of Ryzen content here And that's because Intel, I mean, at one point, when stock was low with Ryzen CPUs, it kind of made sense to go with an Intel, right? To go with Team Blue. But now that stock has gotten a little better and Intel is on the cusp of releasing their 11th generation Rocket Lake CPUs, it kind of it kind of pays to see what Intel does in release. Will they compete with AMD? I think the level that they have to compete with AMD on has to be price to performance. It has to be value for money. They're going to have to compete with AMD in terms of competitive pricing, right? That's just big facts. But yeah, I mean, Intel stock is looking good, which we will keep that in mind. Like, put that in your back pocket for this live show. Again, it will coincide with the topic or coincide with our example. But if we rewind about 2 to 3 months ago, that wasn't the case. When we were talking about with Ryzen CPUs being in stock, right, and available to the masses, GPUs too. And now it's still gut wrenching it's still very much gut wrenching to shop for, especially when you understand that the price to performance output versus what you're paying for in most cases is overpriced, right? It's 40 to 60% more than what that component is worth. If you're saying, for example, GTX 1070s at one point around this time last year, you could get a GTX 1070 for about 250, 225. I had took one in as a credit and cash and for 250, and now they're selling for about 450, $500, even on the used market. That is insane. That is insane. But we're going to talk about the used market more because, yeah, it's trickled down, and that's something we talked about. I projected in a few earlier live streams to where this would eventually trickle on down to the used market, right? Eventually, we would see, used price to performance being affected by the lack of supply and the very high demand of graphics cards, and it's happened. Unfortunately, most listeners understand that what they have is far more valuable than what they morally should and could list it for, but they just don't, right? It's like it's mind-boggling because AMD, again, we talked about this in the beginning of the live stream, but if you didn't know, AMD did their reveal on March 3rd where they announced and revealed the 6700 XT with its 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM or memory buffer, and I believe 40 compute units. So that's coming out on March 18th. Do you think there's going to be enough to go around? I highly doubt it. I'm going to be up and I'll try, but I seriously doubt there'll be enough 6700 XTs to go around. Maybe even 6 per country. Maybe even less than that. Like, I just don't want to set the bar too high, but it releases on March 18th at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And again, the 6800 series is hard to find still. The 6900 XT is still very much rare and hard to find either at all or at MSRP, right? I think the 6800 XT is a great graphics card, either the 6800 series or the 6800 XT at MSRP, but you can't find them. So it's very gut-wrenching to even shop on the used market because no matter where you go to try to find your graphics card, new market, used market, you're going to see about a 40 to 60% markup. It's insane. Bad Habit says GTX 1070 for $400. Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, let me come over to here and I'll show you exactly. If we come to eBay, let me go GTX 1070. Bring them up here. Here goes a fount reference edition, $500. 2 days left on the bid. Starting at $300, which is very much still too much. So again, I had a GTX 1070 here that even I paid $250 for, and this person's starting to bid at $300. You can buy it now for $5. Here's another one, a 1070 Ti for $525. Another reference GTX 1070 for $449, right? A 1070 Ti not working. So before you say, "Oh, look at that one for $270 lab," not working. Which is still, I mean, $270 for a graphics card is not even working. So $375 for a PNY GeForce GTX 1070. 500. So yeah, I mean, I had said 400, but even I said 4 because on other sites about, not, or on other sites unlike eBay, so like the Facebook Marketplace and even OfferUp where I search locally, these prices are about the same. It's like as most listers will come over to eBay to see what it's going for before they even sell it on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp. Like they know what they can get for their price or for what they can get for their component. Cliff says, let me get caught up on the chat really fast. Cliff says, I think a perception by non-PC users that PC gaming is difficult as far as installing games, keeping games, drivers, etc. up to date. They think it's so much more complicated. The reality is it's more plug and play than ever. And that's absolutely true, Cliff. I mean, that's one thing we talked about on last week's live show, right? Where we talked about some of the best way to download and install games. Not only were in that live show, which again, share that video with a friend. If they're a little long, but if they could find value at even 20, 30, 45 minutes into the video, more power to them. Excuse me, because you're absolutely right. Maintenance. It's almost one of the same reasons why most people don't want to own a vehicle or have a driver's license, because if you're here stateside and you're here state bound, you know that having a driver's license, no matter in your state, having a commercial driver's license often comes with some level of maintenance. Either you have to renew it annually, or you have to pass some sort of written exam, or you have to pass an eye test. There comes some level of responsibility with that ability, that privilege to drive a vehicle. So it's just like with that privilege to enjoy video games at a capacity like PC gaming, right? There's going to come maintenance with that. And you're right, it to most, the perception is that it's high. PCs are high maintenance, but they're not. You're right, it is, especially now, more plug and play than ever. It's more so about keeping your system fine tuned. You can ignore all of those things on your system. You can ignore drivers. You can ignore Windows updates or what have you. You can even go as far as to ignore BIOS updates and chipset driver updates. Your system, to some degree, will still very much function, right? Unless it's a critical system update that needs to happen, right? And it's going to cause like green screens and blue screens or what have you. Your system's going to function. Now, is it fine tuned? Is it running at maximum efficiency? Like, likely not. And because you're not maintaining your system, you're going to pay for that in terms of performance. But if, like Cliff said, it's more plug and play than ever. And in my opinion, it's more so about educating yourself. It's more so about finding, folks like myself right here on YouTube that could help you with that journey. I see it as a journey, and you're always going to need to learn something about your system constantly, right? Any new experiences, system crashes, updates, upgrades, for example. You're going to learn constantly about your system the more you spend time with it. And that is just to help you ensure that your system is running like the fine-tuned monster that you envisioned it to be. Because why? Because what we say around here, fam, PCs have, consoles have character, or consoles have a purpose. Why do I keep fudging that up? PCs have character, consoles have a purpose, right? It's one of those reasons why. But I agree. Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest reasons why. It's either like it's the two-part excuse. Either they don't want to build it and they say, "Oh, it costs too much money to have somebody build it for me." Not true. Either they say it's hard, or the next part is, well, I don't know where, like you said, I don't know where to download games, or I don't know, how to update the drivers. All of these things have become more streamlined and more widely available and easier for users to do. Again, it's one of the reasons why the journey of this channel, the mission of this channel, is to convert and bring as many, new users over into the PC market as possible. The Mrs. Amify says, at this point, I'm cool waiting for the 7000 series from AMD. Wow. I mean, yeah. Who imagine, and who knows, or could imagine what socket that might be on, right? Like AM6 or something, what have you. But, again, this is Zombified. I'm not sure what stage you're at in your process, with your journey. But with AMD announcing resizable bar technology and new PCIe, smart access memory technology on Ryzen 3000 series CPUs, which are widely available right now, right? I would say don't ignore don't flinch at that Ryzen 3000 price to performance, man, because it's really there. But we also need to make sure that RX 6000 series graphics cards are even available to take advantage of resizable bar technology. And it's something I didn't mention. Let me switch back here. It's something that I didn't mention in the Full Metal Jacket video I did, where we recapped the 6700 XT launch and reveal, or reveal more so. It launches on March 18th, right? I didn't really talk about it, but Intel and Nvidia is also set to support resizable bar technology with the upcoming RTX, Nvidia's next generation of RTX graphics cards, with the RTX 30 series here to follow suit to support resizable bar on Intel. Rumor is it's not as fast as AMD's. I think Intel's total performance boosts up to 10%. Whereas AMD right now is boosting performance gains up to 16%. And for those of you who don't know, resizable bar, or PCIe, is a emerging technology that is set to allow your CPU to directly communicate with your video card's VRAM to increase and improve bandwidth and communication between both parts, thus improving your frame rate in games. It remains to be seen, though, how much of that is completely accurate and true. This is coming from AMD's camp and Intel, respectively. But the technology is coming to over into Intel's upcoming 11th generation CPUs and next generation NVIDIA GPUs. So you might want to consider getting yourself an RTX 30 series graphics card once you're able to find one. Cliff says, what about Vega 56 versus a GTX 1070 alternative? I tell you what, I haven't really looked at the Vega cards, because they at one point were just they were like all the miners wanted the GTX 50, the Vega 56, and they were some of the most heavily mined graphics cards, coupled with their power draw and the fact that at the time they were barely faster than a GTX 1070. The GTX 1070 was very much still the better alternative. But I tell you what, let's see what Vega 56 is going for. So about the same price as a GTX 1070, or in the ballpark with most bids. But I mean, you see here, it's $749. Clearly, there's no value there. There's zero value there for a $749 Vega 56 graphics card, right? So yeah, I mean, the lowest you can see here is 650, and even then you ask yourself, I'd rather just spend the $400 to $450 and get a GTX 1070, or maybe an RTX 2060. So you could take advantage of newer technologies, ray tracing, DLSS. But yeah, I mean, so Vega 56 still quite expensive. And you ask yourself, you really want this Vega 64, which my interest has peaked, just costs just as much. And this is the truth about PC gaming. This is the reality of it. The perception is you want a high quality gaming experience. You need a high end graphics card, right? The reality is they're not available. They are overpriced by a great deal. This here, $839 for a Vega 64 Asus ROG Strix. There's no value there. There's no value here for $1,100 Vega Strix 64. Vega 64, Asus ROG Strix Vega 64. So yeah, I mean, a GTX 1070, in my opinion, is your targeted graphics card. We're going to talk more about the GTX 1070. I think it's a great 1080p card, right? Still a little overpriced though, by at least 50% higher. And you're going to find especially on eBay, most sellers have a high buy-in now, because they start to bid at 300, knowing that it'll likely fall in between somewhere between $400 to $500 before it sells. Bad Habit says, I have a GTX 1070. Anybody wants to buy it? Yeah, there you go. Bad Habit, GTX 1070s are selling like hotcakes right now. I'm willing to bet if you listed that either, locally on Craigslist or what have you, or even on eBay, which eBay is a little slower burn getting as far as recouping your funds and earning your monies. But, I mean, they'll sell fast. They'll sell fast. Tricion says, my GPU 2070 Super is selling for 3 times the price on the Dutch version of eBay. This is insane. Yeah, and again, you have to ask yourself, what is the value there? And I believe so that puts the RTX 2070 Super over in your currency, which about maybe 15, $1,600 here. What is that? USD, right? Is probably about what it's going for even here, probably even more than that. And brand new, you're telling yourself what? That's the cost of an RTX 3090, right? Like a reference RTX 3090 at MSRP costs about $1,500. Ask yourself, what would you rather have? An RTX 2070 Super or an RTX 3090? Clearly an RTX 3090 if they were available or if they're around. They're clearly not. So that's what makes PC, that is again the truth with PC gaming in 2021, right? Perception versus reality. Butter Knife says hello. Hey there, Butter Knife. And Trisound says, does Nvidia have something like that? Yeah, I guess you're referring to resizable bar. Yeah, on the upcoming 10th, as Cliff mentioned, the 10th and 11th gen and Intel 30 series for bar technology. Going to be testing it soon on my laptop. Yeah, because it's available right now on select few laptops. But 11th generation, it clearly is a platform I want to jump on. I skipped over 10th generation and just said I'll just go with the 9900K. I game in a higher resolution anyway when I'm not editing and creating content on this system on my Snow White build. Which I've been sharing a lot of reels. I've been having fun with Instagram reels. Let me switch back here real fast before we progress it to the live show because I've been having a lot of fun with reels. And just want to put this shameless plug in if you're here and you haven't yet followed me over on Instagram. Do follow me over on Instagram at Inside the Lab YT and Twitter at Inside the Lab YT. We've been doing reels and fleets and just stories and just trying to share more of the brand personality and some of the things that go on outside of the camera frame. Right, so definitely give me a follow over there. Apologize about the shameless plug, by the way. But Trisound says, yeah, bro, around here I wish I could sell it, but I got no replacement. Yeah, and that's a very important note to make, right? And that's you may be sitting on gold, right? Like you consider that you may be sitting on a gold mine, much like the GPU shortage of 2019. Most even large tech enthusiasts with all their graphics cards in their studios, right? Like I'm a micro influencer, right? But all those large influencers who had an abundance of graphics cards in their studios, I remember watching videos at the time because at the time I wasn't a content creator, right? I wasn't creating content on this platform. I was just consuming it. Now I consume and create it, but I don't consume a lot of content outside of news within this niche. But at the time, there were a lot of creators who were coming out just saying, hey, I don't want to sell my graphics cards because if we sell our graphics cards, we won't be able to find other graphics cards to create more content around. So I'm kind of in that same boat, even with the graphics cards I have here. Rather they be new or old, I have a wide range of them. But if I sell them, it's like, what am I do? Especially if I don't need the money. If anything, I need the graphics cards more than I need the money to create content around. That way I could discover the value for the community, whatever that may be. So yeah, it's difficult because you see that your 2070 is worth 3 times than what you paid for it. But it's like at the end of the day, if you sell it, it's like, what are you going to use? 1650 supers, for example, selling for like $420, $350. That's crazy. That's crazy. Cliff says 9900K is boss. Yeah, 9900K. I haven't even used it yet, and it's going to be one of my favorite CPUs. And I'm telling you what, I got my fingers crossed that mine. It's new. This one's new. I got a feeling it's going to be a good. It's going to be a good bend 9900K. And I'm able to get a sick overclock out of it. But it's going to be my daily driver to edit and encode my videos here for the channel, especially till we switch to 4K. Excuse me, but yeah. So this is the this is the GPU market right now. Right? The same could be said for RTX 30 series cards. And even with NVIDIA mining or NVIDIA gimping the mining performance on the RTX 3060, right? They're still selling for between $900 to $1,300, right? Normal stock, right? Let me say normal. Normal stock has come and gone with goose eggs at every retailer, e-tailer, and merchant. You're not going to be able to find an RTX 3060 anywhere. You can find them right here on eBay, right? Check this out, fam. You can find them right here on eBay. Let's go here. Let's say RTX 3060. You can find them right here on eBay. Check it out. You want a 3060? You're going to have to pay more for it than what you would for a 6800 XT. About $200 less for a 6900 XT if it were available. Right? Same thing here, $809. $900. Some variants I saw $1,200, and this is a 3060 Ti, right? But yeah, in my opinion, it's like, why not go with the 3060? The 3060 has more VRAM, especially if you need it. But yeah, this is the 3060. It's come and gone and it's unavailable. Do you think the same thing's going to happen with the RX 6700 XT? More than likely, because the 6800 XT, which the RTX 30 series and 6800 XT kind of dropped around the same time. You want a 6800 XT, you're going to have to pay the equivalency of a RTX 3090. $1,600. Wow, wow. Right? It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Right? It's getting worse. Cliff says, should do 5 gigahertz, all cores, no problem, even higher. Yeah, I imagine so. I hope so. I know there's a motherboard, and which I do have a high-end Z490 motherboard, but I know motherboard and cooling are going to be two big factors. But I'll most likely, I mean, that's going to be a series anyway when I update my editing rig, and just kind of show the performance lift that I'm gonna get with it, and we're going to decide what we're going to do with that 8700K, right? But XLR Gaming says it's going to be miners paying those prices, not gamers. Yeah, and unfortunately, miners are willing to pay those prices, right? Gamers, it's mostly an entertainment expense for us. For miners, it's a possible way for them to earn some coin, no matter the upfront cost, right? No matter the initial cost, they buy GPUs, by the dozens where applicable, where they can. So to them, this is nothing. But to a gamer, we're like, wow, I was hoping to be able to build with a total system cost at half of this price, and it's just not going to happen, right? The lack of GPU market, the lack of supply in the GPU market has trickled on down to the used market. I showed you our GTX 1070s going for over $400. We talked about the Steam survey, how the Steam survey among registered users had the GTX 1060 6GB variant, one of the most popular graphics cards amongst those who are registered for the Steam survey. And it's costing you about the price of a GTX 1070 for what, 2GB less VRAM and a few less cores, slightly slower, right? But you're in a ballpark of over $350 for a GTX 1060. Now, is that a lot? One would argue, I imagine so, but it's available, right? But in most cases, that is a lot. That is a lot. It's trickled on down to the used market. It really has, right? The same thing could be said for most cars in the used segment, regardless of its generation. They're all being sold for about 30 to 40% more than they're worth. Cliff says, what do you think about hash rate limiters, if that's something we'll see more of? If it's effective, I think we will see more of it. If the brands and these companies, the chip manufacturers, Intel, if they eventually move over into the graphics card market and they release consumer level desktop graphics cards, if they see that it's effective, right, then I think we will see more of it, right? What we saw in the RTX 3060. Now, if them affecting hash rates, if it's counterproductive and it doesn't really help, then I think we won't see it anymore. Now, again, remember where I say I think it's up to the manufacturers to be able to appeal or to satisfy the supply and demand for both consumers groups, miners and gamers. Miners want to mine, gamers want to game, right? If you're a content creator, you likely create content around video games. So you want a gaming PC, or a PC, the equivalent of a gaming PC, much like a gaming laptop, right? If you edit videos on a go, chances are you want an i7, you want a dedicated graphics card to help speed up that encoding process, right? But I do think it is something we'll see more of if it works, right? Like if it actually works. It remains to be seen if it will. It's too early. AMD hasn't really announced that was their approach with it during their March 3rd keynote. They did say, though, that they were going to make graphics cards available for both their partners and over on the AMD website, at day one. But will that really help? That remains to be seen. Again, that's going to be March 18th, 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to be up and ready trying to see what the stock is going to be like and where could I get one, maybe with multiple tabs open. But maybe that is something we'll see more of. Maybe it is. But there was a time where the used market could cushion the financial impact of getting into PC gaming, right? but not anymore, at least in the graphics card arena. But there were a time where if you wanted to go with a newer CPU, or maybe you picked up a fourth generation i7 that still had a little bit more life inside, or a 2700, 2500K, right? Um, a third generation i7. Maybe you came across a CPU and GPU or CPU motherboard platform and still a little bit of life left to it, and you just say, you know what, I really just want to maybe upgrade. I want to upgrade my SSD. I want to get an SSD. I want to get a faster graphics card, right? I want to get a modern graphics card so I can maybe try to play at a modern resolution and at a higher frame rate, right? Maybe you can head over to the used market and find that, and be able to achieve that. But you can't now, right? You just can't. Damon Warren, I see we got Damon Warren in the house. Damon says, "Good evening, peeps." And then Cliff says, "We all know they only made one Radeon card." One? I'd be surprised if they even made one. You know what's funny? Now, hold on, let me switch back here. Because when I was watching the keynote, I was saying, like, you know what, this is funny. AMD didn't even have one to show. I'm like thinking maybe they didn't even make one, because the AMD rep, I forgot his name, but the AMD rep who led the premiere keynote, he didn't even have a model to show us, right? We saw it was just the GPU die. That was all. So not even AMD had one to show, and here we are, what, a few weeks, 2-3 weeks out from launch, and AMD didn't even have one to show us that we could see tangible. It's concerning, fam. It is concerning. It very much is. It very much is. This is why I say I'm not putting too much, not putting my stock too much into it that I'll be able to get one. But I'm going to try. Because the 6700 XT is a graphics card that, remember, I've been predicting and I've been talking about for a while now, and I talked about that in the Full Metal Jacket RX 6700 review video or vlog recap video. I talked about that. I mentioned that. I said previous live shows, I said we were going to see a 6700 XT, and very much still possible a 6700 and 6600 XT and 6600, right? AMD did promise more RDNA 2 graphics cards down the line. So what does that mean? 6600 XT, 6600 anybody, right? Graphics cards in that $300, sub $300 segment. Remember when the 6800 XT launched and Nvidia dropped the RTX 3070, and I said, hey, we don't have any graphics cards in the sub $300 to $400 level to compete with the 5700 XT. I said that's going to change here very soon. So when the 6800 XT launch came and went, or the 6000 RX 6000 series launch came and went, and we didn't get any glimpse of the 6700 at the time, I said, oh, it's definitely going to come. And AMD is not going to AMD is not going to let Nvidia creep up in that market space yet, which is one AMD normally does pretty good at, their Radeon division. And here we are now. AMD has their sub $400 solution graphics card, but it likely won't be available. I gotta keep that in mind, and it's actually $479, but still, 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, compatible with resizable bar technology, smart access memory. It's going to be a graphics card that's going to be in high demand, just much like the 5700 XT was. I mean, it's good that Nvidia is relaunching the GTX 1050 Ti, which I'm seeing for a little over $300 with its 4 gigabytes of GDR, I believe it's 5 memory, right? But and RTX 2060. But again, will there be enough? And will that be enough? Excuse me, more than not. But that's funny. Cliff says, yeah, they only made one Radeon card, and yeah, they only made one, and AMD wasn't even allowed to show it. AMD wasn't even allowed to have it for their keynote, fam. And Damien says, inside the lab, I edit on an iPad. That's all good. Hey man, you gotta do what works for you. Here recently, and I told myself I gotta update my phone, so I've been searching on the hunt, if you will, for a cell phone, because I've been doing more editing on the go, as I like to try to jump into doing reels and doing stories and exploring with content off of YouTube, though, that could pull new viewers over into the channel, right? I need a beefier cell phone, so I've been looking at cell phones with dedicated graphics cards, maybe like the Note 10 and up, somewhere in that along the lines. I do like Android. Right, I'd be seeing some Twitter users on a super side note, fam. I see some users be getting flamed. They be like, oh, this tweet is sent from Android, tweet from Android. But I like Android. Come on, there's nothing wrong with Apple devices, right? Like you pay for that premium look, feel, and aesthetic. But I like the concept of Android where it's very much akin to a PC experience, right? To where you can customize and download certain, it's more open source, if you will. So I like Android for that reason. But um, yeah, I need to. I want to start editing on the go. Maybe not my dedicated videos because I like to get real complex with my edits. So need to sit down on Snow White for that. But yeah, switching back here and just going over the used market again. There was a time where the used market could cushion the blow or cushion the cost of getting into PC gaming, but it's just that not that way now. And if you want to buy a mid-tier graphics card, right? Like if you say, you know what, it is what it is, lab. I got disposable money. I got the money to do so. It's not that much. Like I came across somebody selling a GTX 1060 for $260, which is actually a really good deal, right? Like that's not bad. It's a new listing, but look at that. It ended. No wonder somebody likely put a quick bid in for that because that's a really good deal. $260 for a GTX 1060. You're not going to find deals like that, which is another thing where if you see a part that you want and that you definitely know you're going to need, jump on it, fam. You can't wait in this market, right now in these times. You can't sit on parts and just say it'll be there next week. If you got the funds and you saved it and you're being a budget, you're being financially responsible, go for it because chances are it won't be there very long. But see, here goes a GTX 1060 6 GB mini, $400, right? $349 for an EVGA GTX 1060 for the win. Not bad, $349. Again, if you had a more feasible option to go with, we would recommend you going with it, and that would be, say, an RTX 2060, right? A graphics card that I too have been trying to get my hands on. I tell you what, jump over. Let's look at an RTX 2060, the 6 GB variant. All right, we're live shopping here. 580 bones, man. Wow. That hurts. See what I'm saying? What we talked about in the beginning of the live stream, right? It hurts to shop for cars. Now you see that, you're like, come on. Like, wow. Wow, for an RTX 24 graphics card, we all know could deliver a very solid 1080p experience, right? And in my opinion, if you want to even, experience ray tracing, maybe 1080p 30 FPS, 1080p 60 FPS with some graphic tweaking, go with an RTX 2060, right? But not at $580. Does that GTX 1060 doesn't sound too bad now, right? Damon says, I'm Team Android, but my Note 20 Ultra took a dive. Ouch. That sucks. And I see Cliff said they had to leave, which I see, it looks like Cliff might have already left. Cliff, all good. As Cliff said, I got to run. Have a good day, fam. Y'all take care, everyone. Yeah, same to you. Same to you, Cliff. And Cliff says, I had a OnePlus 8 5G. Love it. Great phone. My first device. Yeah, OnePlus is doing, they came out to the scene and really shook up the mobile market. But yeah, I'm due for a new phone. Shamefully, I use a Pixel 3 XL. So I'm due for an upgrade. But here recently, I just more so wanted a phone I can, manage. I was a phone, aficionado, but switched over to PCs. Now I just want a functioning phone. But check it. Speaking of function, RTX 2060, way too overpriced. Way too overpriced. It'd be better to go with the GTX 1060, especially if you had no interest in ray tracing and DLSS. Now, shopping for parts is no longer the fun part. We talked about that. One of the things we're going to talk about is not perception versus reality, but that is what are some alternative options you could go with, right? Like, it's not consoles because those are super rare to pick up these days too, and they're still currently being scalped, right? Like before one would argue, say, well, I'm just going to buy a console. Console costs $400. It's plug and play, right? Like Cliff mentioned earlier in the live show where he said, well, most people perception is, because the topic behind this live stream is perception versus reality. Most users' perception is that maintenance in the PC takes way too much time and is way too difficult. And that maintenance could be updating your graphics drivers, upgrading Windows, knowing where to go to even doing those things before it made more sense to go with the console, right? That is really one of the reasons why consoles have a purpose. Is for that reason. Is for if you don't want to have to deal with all of those things. It's not like it will limit you from experiencing some of the latest and greatest games that are come out now. You could still go with the console and experience that sans PC exclusives quite naturally, and any console exclusives like over on Sony. Which again, can Sony finally give us a PlayStation launcher, please? Please, can we get a PlayStation launcher, right? But one of those alternative options, it's not going with the console anymore. If we go over the consoles, just really quickly, briefly, I want to show you that. Let's do a quick search. PS5, right? PS5. Wow. But that's not a PS5. Let's go. All right. PlayStation 5 console. eBay's going to make me work the search query. And look at that. First thing we see, $1,400, $1,000, $849. Right? Like, even if you said no matter what, hey, I want a next generation level experience, whether that's on the console or PC. If you're willing to pay $849 for a console, that means you could pay $849 for overpriced PC parts too, and you can build yourself, even with graphics cards, more aching on the used market for about this price point. Keep this price point in mind because we're going to revisit it. But yeah, PlayStation 5, very much still being scalped and hard to find. $824. The bid 17 bids, $740. Right? Ouch to this picture with what, 6 PS5s, $849 here. $900. So going with consoles, isn't an option. They're still very much being scalped. So, you have to ask yourself, what really is an alternative option? If you're here on the live show and you're like, well, I'm here because I want to know what is the state of PC gaming in 2021. Polecat123W says, hi, everyone. What's happening, Polecat123? It's good to see you. So we're talking about, the reality of PC gaming, the PC gaming in 2021, most importantly, and the perception of it, right? Like what we perceive PC gaming to be right now in 2021 versus what it actually is, right? And we started this live show off by saying it's essentially not easy. It's not easy to get into, right? It's really hard to overcome the GPU anomaly. It's hard to overcome the lack of new graphics cards, especially when you have a budget that you can't allot to it. What you see here, right here with the console, still very much being a victim of scalping and scalped prices. It's the same thing with the PC platform. Now, what are some alternative options? So you're coming in, Polecat, you more specifically, and anybody else I see who just joined us, you're coming in at a part to what we're talking about. So what are some alternative options you could go with, right? And we're going to stick to the PC platform with this one because you do have some options that are viable, right? And one of those being, you could either go with or what I would recommend, right, is let's switch it back over to here. For starters, is the B5 is going with the B450 or X570 chipset, right? Should your budget allow it, I would recommend the X570 chipset. But if not, the B450 chipset would be more than enough. You may have to make sure that it supports your CPU of choice, right? Like whatever the CPU you would want to go for. And especially of these 2 to 4 that I'm going to recommend to you here in a second, right? So keep our price totals in mind because it always starts with the motherboard for the most part. Especially right now, it starts with the motherboard. Before it may start with the graphics card, but one thing I preach is that it really should start with your monitor. Even if you have that already down packed. 1080p 60 hertz, say, hey, I have a 1080p 75 hertz monitor. That's my resolution. That's my frame rate. I like to be able to be close or slightly above that frame rate. I want to use adaptive sync technology. So if I'm not past a frame rate, that's fine. Maybe I want a G-Sync compatible graphics card, right? Or a FreeSync premium compatible graphics card. But I'd recommend the X570 chipset if you have the money. Or, for example, this ASRock B450 Steel Legend Micro ATX motherboard. You can find the links on the side note. Any of these products we talk about in the basement down in the description box below. But you can pick up a B450 ASRock motherboard for $9,400 or an Asus TUF like equivalent X570 motherboard for $184, right? Now, hear me out, because we're still very much in what we call the GPU anomaly, or the shortage supreme, the bot bombardment. I'm gonna call it for what it is. We are in a tech-demic, right? It's essentially a tech-demic. We are in a tech-demic, and it's still running its course through the market in epic proportions, right? With graphics cards new and old either being out of stock or overpriced to the point of diminishing returns or diminishing price to performance. So you could go with an alternative that hasn't received as much love or appreciation, more so with the recent advent of the Zen architecture, but an alternative you could go with, right? If you were to say, hey, I want to get into PC gaming, what is an alternative? Can I do something? There is. You can, again, starting with a B450 motherboard and a Ryzen 3 2200G. Now, that is an CPU with integrated graphics. A CPU with integrated graphics just means that the GPU die is built onto the CPU die, and the CPU shares memory, but you don't need a dedicated graphics card. Now, before, I would be hard pressed to recommend a Ryzen based CPU with integrated graphics. That's because most serious gamers, you want a dedicated graphics card. You could get away with integrated graphics either on Intel or Ryzen, but I use Ryzen example because Vega 8 and Vega 11 is a little bit more robust, and really 8th generation integrated graphics on Intel is more likely you want to start there, like 8th generation on up, if you wanted to use integrated graphics over on Intel. But all Intel CPUs essentially come with integrated graphics, unless it's a non-F based CPU, right? So if it's like a 9400 F, for example, then it won't have support for integrated graphics, which integrated graphics could be fine for just, basic office work, basic school work. But for, 1080p gaming, any serious gaming, it's not really going to get the job done. So then you ask yourself, you come over to Sable Lab, how can Ryzen 3 be any different? Well, for starters, because it's the price and it's the way the Zen architecture is made. But you have the 2200G, the $182 2200G, right? Which is with the B450 motherboard, will cost you a total of about $280, right? You have the 2200G, as you can see here, and the 2400G. With the biggest difference is the 2400G has simultaneously multi-threading. So the 2200G could be a better value for you if you don't need hyper-threading, right? If you don't need your cores to act as, to make virtual cores, right? You just say, hey, I just need 4 cores, 4 threads. I don't plan on doing anything extra in the background, running multiple, applications while I'm gaming. Hey, I just want to fire up some games. The Vega 8, $182, 2200G, and a B450 motherboard, like that Steel Legend I just showed you, the $94 Steel Legend, $280, right? $280. Not bad in my honest opinion. Now, overall, it's important to mention, what kind of performance can you expect with a integrated like especially here with the Vega 8 integrated graphics CPU? You can game at 1080p. They're not really made for 1080p. 720p and 900p is kind of the sweet spot for integrated graphics. But on a 2200G, which I did a video on the 2200G at the time, I didn't test it for games because that wasn't its purpose. But I did a video on a 2200G, which you can find out. It's an oldie, but very much still a goodie. And you can check out the Unity in Heaven score and frame rate I got at that. And that was at 1080p low and medium settings. And at low settings at 1080p, it was over 70 FPS, right? And at 1080p, like medium settings, it was just a little under 60, I believe. So very much a capable graphics card. Now, you can very much even run higher end games like The Witcher 3. Maybe not Cyberpunk 2077. But The Witcher 3 be able to run higher games, but at a performance level about 1080p, 30 FPS. Like it's a 30 FPS to 40 FPS mid-tier level CPU. Now, why is that important? Because it's accessible, right? It's accessible. The 2200G is accessible for $182 right now. You can buy it right now. Compared with that motherboard, you could buy both of those parts at $289, and you're already off to having your your system being built. It comes with the Wraith Stealth CPU cooler, so you wouldn't even need to invest extra money into a cooler unless you want to go with a stock cooler. But the or a aftermarket cooler, but the stock cooler that comes with Zen is more than enough for general usage, especially if you're not going to overclock, right? Especially if you're not going to overclock. Damien says hashtag techdemic, quoting that. Yeah, I need to put it on a shirt. When I was thinking of it, I was like, that needs to go on the shirt, because I was ranting. Like I was just talking to Mrs. Mod, my wife, and I was just like, we're in a techdemic right now. We can't find anything with PC gaming. I was just so frustrated. I thought that was a really cool buzzword, but y'all heard it here first though, so that's, hey, Lab made it cool. But we're in a techdemic, but there's ways to get around it, starting with a 2200G and a $94 B450 motherboard at $182 value. Now you can even level up and take that one step further and go with a 3400G. So the 2200G is on the Zen architecture. The 3400G is on the Zen Plus architecture. So you could run with a Ryzen 5 3400G, right? Which does have simultaneously multi-threading, right? 4 cores, 8 threads, and Vega 11 graphics card. Vega 11, so it's more 11 compute units. Compute units. Damn, fam, can I talk? But 11 compute units. That's the difference. So Vega 8, 8 compute units. Vega 11, 11 compute units. And the Ryzen 5 3400G is better bin for what? That about $20 price difference on average that may be for you. This is all again in US dollars, but the 3400G, it's a better bin integrated graphics card. As you can see, it has a boost clock up to 4.2 gigahertz, right? And it's a good option, especially if you wanted to go with a newer chipset, right? Like an X570 motherboard on average, like the Asus TUF X570 motherboard I recommended to you. Again, don't go for there. Don't head down there now. But any and all of these things I talk about, you can find the links down in the basement below. That's the description box. You can read more about these products, see if they're worth it to you or if they will work with your budget. And if you have any questions about it and you're here on the replay, you can either answer them down in the comment section or ask me off of the platform over on Twitter or Instagram. But with a 3400G, right, and a X570 motherboard, right? The X570 motherboard is going to position you to, upgrade to a Ryzen 5000 series CPU, take advantage of PCIe 4.0 resizable bar technology. Should you want to upgrade to a smart access memory compatible graphics card, for now, that's RX 6000 series graphics cards. But that's at a cost for $400. Not bad. Not bad once you're considering that you have a motherboard that's going to offer you a flexible upgrade path and a CPU that's very much capable of running some of the latest and greatest games on that Vega 11 graphics card, right? Integrated graphics card. And it's at a price for $209. Again, this is available right now. You can go to the link down in the description box below, pick up an Asus TUF X570 motherboard and a Ryzen 5 3400G. Pay a little over $400 for two of your core components out the way, right? Two of your main components out the way. If you factor in, right, because you can just take a look here at the price. Ryzen 3400G, $149, right? Price has gone up a little bit, admittedly. Like if I checked before the live show just to verify, this was at launch, but right now it's about $209. It's going for, but still very much a lot of value there. Once you consider X570 motherboard, premium chipset, 3400G, right? 4-core, 8-thread, Vega 11 integrated graphics card with the graphics integrated with the CPU. Factor in $70 for a small form factor case, right? Or even a mid to full size tower. A case like the Masterbox MB311L, right? That's the case we did the best gaming PC to build under $900 in 2021. That case cost under $70. You can even go as low as maybe even the Masterbox Q, the micro ATX case, that's under $50. So you can save even more money if you wanted to. But let's say we factor in $70 for your case, right? For a small form factor case, maybe you want to go with the micro ATX B450 motherboard or the full ATX Asus TUF X570 chipset motherboard. In fact, $70 for your case, $80 for 16 gigabytes of GDDR4 memory, a kit of memory, right? With a rated speed, it's important that you check out your motherboard's QVL. Make sure you get a memory kit that's at least listed on your motherboard's QVL, and try to target about 2933 megahertz, right? With some headroom. So about 3200 megahertz DDR4 16 gigabyte kit will serve you well for between Zen Plus especially, but between Zen Plus and even Zen 2, right? $80 for memory, $90 for a semi-modular power supply. We're just kind of, laying out the parts. And I tell you what, because I kind of parted this out earlier. So let's switch back here, right? Let's head back here. So we have our Ryzen 3 2200G, which we says $182 for the 4 core. This is the 4 core, 4 thread, non hyper-threaded variant. Now the problem with that is the hyper-threaded variant costs $325. So if you really need hyper-threading, you're going to pay for it. But if you don't, which chances are you don't, save yourself a significant amount of money and go with the 4 core, 4 thread variant, 2200G. $94 micro ATX motherboard, 16 gigabytes, DDR4 3200 CL16 memory, right? $80. Storage, right? So with storage, $70 for a 500 gigabyte NVMe M.2 or $100 range for a 1 terabyte SSD for storage. Like that should be a general start range. I picked this one out here. That's an $80 SS or NVMe M.2 is 500 gigabytes. Maybe you need more, maybe you need less. This depends on your library. So if you play a lot of games, if you tend to play a lot of games, it'll definitely want to go with an SSD. You want to ensure storage is the least of the upgrades you have to worry about. So if you plan on playing a lot of games, 1 terabyte in a $100 range is a good starting point, as you can see here. Since this motherboard has support for NVMe M.2, I recommend going with an NVMe M.2, right? But $70 for your storage, which you could even go less than that or more. You have some wiggle room, right? And you factor in your power supply unit, or you have your case, which we have the case, the Masterbox MP311L, your power supply unit, right? Which is important because this is a system you're going to want to upgrade in the future. But going with a semi-modular power supply unit is at least a semi-modular power supply unit. It's going to make your life easier during the build process. In this 6 to 750 watt range is going to be $70 to $90 is a good starting point. This one here for 65, 600 watt, 80 plus bronze rated semi-modular power supply unit for $65. Depending on what what your upgrade path may be, could depend on how much you may need to spend on your power supply unit. But let's give ourselves about a $70 to $90 headroom for our power supply unit. That takes our grand total. Once you factor in that, again, you have your CPU and motherboard costing with the $182 2200G and $94 B450 motherboard, that's a $571 system. That's under $600 for components you can buy right now. Components you can upgrade in the future indefinitely, but for components you can buy right now, and that's going to be able to deliver a 1080p gaming, a 1080p performance level of gaming, right? Will it be perfect? Absolutely not, right? But these are with parts. While prices may vary, depending on your area, right? Depending on your locality and where you're located in the world, they may be different depending on your area, but they are readily available to purchase and build with now, right? With performance again at 1080p on that 2200G, right? With your 2200G and 2400G, they're not that far off between each other, maybe like 1 to 2 frames, right? But with performance at a 1080p level, like low or medium settings in the low 30s and high 40s, depending on the game, 900p may be the sweet spot, but you'll be able to scale your performance with future upgrades, right? Because that's important. It's one thing we talk about around here, right? And that's your ability to upgrade your system and to get the most out of it. Unlike a console, you just can't make certain upgrades. You just can't. So, again, it's perception versus reality. What we understand PC gaming to be in 2021 versus what it actually is in 2021. And that's a hot mess, right? It is the best way to experience, it's the best way to experience video games. It's the best way to create content and do more. The truth is it may be better, but it's not easy, fam. Come on, y'all. It's not easy. It costs more than it should, but there are ways to get around that, right? There are ways to get around that. I showed you with going with a B. It always starts with the motherboard. You want at least a B450 motherboard or an X570 chipset. Go with the highest chipset where possible because it's going to leave you with generational overhead to upgrade to newer graphics cards or CPUs or to give you, scalable performance upgrades with your upgrades, especially in the CPU arena. no matter what resolution you're playing at, your CPU to some degree is or resolution you're playing. I'm sorry, your CPU is going to play a factor. It's going to play a role in your frame rate, right? Now at like 2560 by 1440p, your graphics card is rendering a few more pixels, right, than it would at 1080p. But underneath of the, of those pixels being rendered, your CPU is still trying to calculate the geometry, right, and still trying to communicate those textures between the graphics card, the RAM, and well, the CPU. So, you know, there are ways you can get into it, right? Ways you can get into PC gaming, perception versus reality, right? Now, you could go with the B450 motherboard, right? For those of you who are just coming along, and again, all of these are down in the description box below. You can go with the B450 motherboard, $94. Ryzen 3 2200G, yes, it's integrated graphics CPU. Ryzen 3 2200G, 4 core, 4 threads, or a CPU that has so much value. I tell you what, I want to pick it up just to show you, just to demonstrate, just to validate the topic of this live stream. And that's the $209 Ryzen 3 3400G with its 4 cores, 8 threads, and Vega 11 integrated graphics unit on there. It has incredible value that you could still very much jump in and still very much play PC games right now. The GPU shortage, the GPU anomaly, if you just now joined us, we called it the here first. We branded here first, right? I called it we're in a tech demic. We're in a tech demic. Graphics cards, supply constraints, scouters, bots, it's the bot bombardment, the shortage supreme, all of those things. Like, it's just, PC gaming is in really bad shape. It's forcing us to go or to make alternative decisions with our builds or the route we want to go with our systems, right? But there is some value to still be had in parts that are available now. I demonstrated that in this system here that I have parted out with the $182 Ryzen 3 2200G. And even if we wanted to say, I tell you what, really fast, let's do a live build. We're doing this live because I said you can go with the Asus TUF. Let's see if we find it here. Asus TUF X570 motherboard. Where are you? Asus ROG Strix MSI Asus TUF B550 motherboard. No, we want the X570 chipset. We want the enthusiast level chipset. Right, we want the enthusiast level chipset. Because I'm interested to know, actually, I tell you what, I'm actually interested to know will you need a BIOS update if you wanted to go with a B550 motherboard and say the Ryzen 5 3400G. Right? Because updating your BIOS can be intimidating, and I do plan on doing a dedicated video to show you how. As you can see here, it's not even. I have PC part picker set to in compatibility mode to filter parts that are compatible. So you can see the 3400 isn't even listed, and that's with the B550 motherboard. But if we change this to an X570 chipset, which we're just going to type Asus TUF X570, where are you? I swear it was just here. B360. X5. Wow, where is our Asus TUF X570? Okay. So we're going to go with the first 500, the first X500 series chipset we see, which is the Asus ROG Strix, which is $339. The Asus TUF is available for $169. It's not showing up right now, and I'll find it in a second here. But I wanted to demonstrate this because the 3400G is $209. And again, that's with the Asus TUF motherboard, which you can find the link down in the description box below, is at $184. So that's an X570 motherboard and a Ryzen 5 3400G for about $400. It's incredible value, a credible price performance, and an option you can go with, right? If I can manipulate this price, which I will, just to kind of reflect what the Asus TUF motherboard going for, that puts this build at about $700, right? $700. Doesn't have a dedicated graphics card, but you have a CPU, 4-core, 8-thread Zen Plus CPU. Obviously not an Asus ROG Strix X570 motherboard, but the Asus TUF X570 motherboard with Wi-Fi, very much still an enthusiast chip. But we have all our components here. $700. Ryzen 5 CPU with integrated graphics, motherboard, memory, storage, case power supply unit, and that's under $700, right? This is the reality with PC gaming. Perception versus reality. Perception is it may not be what you want, but it's what's available right now, right? And that's okay. That's okay. But you can finish but you can't finish, I mean, what you don't start. It's one of my favorite personal quotes, right? You can't finish what you don't start. Build now, upgrade later. Even with that system we just demonstrated here. What would I upgrade? Well, start for starters. I mean, on the X570 chipset, maybe a Ryzen 5 3600X and a GTX 1060. Or if you were willing to pay over $400 for a graphics card, and you say, well, I want to get that GTX 1060 I saw. I want to get that $350, GTX 1060. I'm willing to pay that much. Well, substitute this for like a Ryzen 3600, which sells for about under $200. Add your graphics card, and that puts you at a little over $1,000 for your PC. Again, it's difficult. It's just, I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. It's challenging. I'm sorry. What I like to say. It's challenging to get into PC gaming right now. And that's just the fact. That's the perception versus reality behind it, right? It's what we aspire PC gaming to be versus what it really is. But yeah, we're in a tech-demic. We're in a tech-demic, y'all. But yeah, and early in the live stream, I asked. I said, hey, tell me what your experience has been as a PC gamer here in 2021. Either as an enthusiast, right? Either you build more than one system, or maybe you're a system integrator, right? And you do it as a service. How has this affected you? In what degree has it affected you? Has it prevented you from buying the system that you want to buy and you can afford? Right? Has it affected your business that you've been able to service clients because parts aren't available at respectable and honorable prices? How has it affected you? Right? It's obviously affected me as a creator because I create content around it. I'm a micro influencer, so I have yet to start getting the free stuff from the bigger brands yet, so everything comes out of pocket and that cost accumulates. But, it's part of the process. It's part of the journey. It's why I'm here. But yeah. But anyway, all right, fam, listen, y'all. I told y'all this one wasn't going to be like how our shows normally go. But, I think the ride is slowly coming to an end. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who was able to stop by today. Like Damien, like Polecat, XLR Gaming, Cliff, Bad Habits, Tricion, Butter Knife, the Mr. Zombified, our show regulars. I mean, it's always good to see our show regulars. And again, if you're here on a live show and you made it this long for the show, I do appreciate you. If you had any questions about anything mentioned or anything said during this live show, feel free to ask it in the comment section below. Right? Feel free to ask it down in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter. Right? Hit me up on Twitter. Always willing to engage with the community. Like, I don't have office hours. My office hours is my phone on, or am I at front of the desktop and I see the notification? Do I see the email? Right? Do I see the comment? Right? I'm like in the know. I'm like right there. So, if you have a question here on the live show or you hear on the replay, first of all, shout out to our replay viewers. I do appreciate you. If you just joined in and you didn't know, we have our community. You can join our community because unity starts with you. So you can join our community by finding the email sign up list down in the pinned comment or in the description box below, aka the basement, along with the links to all of the products mentioned during this live show and some of the most recent videos like the RX 6700 XT recap vlog we published, I believe, just Thursday. Right? You can find all of those links and more down in the description box below, and helpfully, that's a new term, right? We got tech-demic and helpfully. Helpfully is hopefully and helpful and combined, right? It's a fusion of it. But hopefully you can find more helpful comment down there that could benefit you and help you indefinitely. But yeah, I do appreciate everybody who stopped by. And we go live for the Inside the Lab weekly live experience once a week, right? Once a week, every Saturday, about 3 to 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with normal weekly videos during the week, right? We have the RTX 3090 review, 6 months later review coming up, right? That's going to be one of the first ones published to the channel. That's going to be coming up somewhere in the middle of the week. We also do our pop-up live shows, which is always fun. Those are my favorite. We only did one, and it was one of my favorite ways to go live and just talk to you, or just kind of rap and just hang out, and play some games. Because like Cliff had mentioned, XLR Gaming mentioned on that live stream, a lot of other large tech tubers forget that. Yeah, we want to see the hardware. Yeah, we want to see the builds. Yeah, we want to see the benchmarks. Yeah, we want to see the overclocks. But most of us are here for the games. Most of us are here for the gaming experience. That's why we're here. So I like to just pop up, go live. So do be sure that, for one, if you're still here and you haven't yet, to give this stream a like, right? It definitely goes a long way, even for reaching viewers on the replay. Definitely give the stream a like, and definitely subscribe if you haven't yet, because we have a lot of awesome content coming up. We have our membership Discord that's going to be launching soon, right? That's going to be available to membership or to email signees up, or email those of you on the email list first. It's going to be available. You'll get first invitation, and then after that, it's only going to be open and available to those who sign up for our channel memberships, which will likely be either on right here on YouTube, fingers crossed, or over on Patreon, or a little bit of both, with available, with content being available in different forms between both channel memberships. Polecat123 says bye. Take care to our moderator. Yeah, Polecat123. Polecat, I forgot to give you our peace out shout out. Polecat, who showed up on the live stream, and Polecat, you're becoming a regular here during the live show. Again, do remember, if you're still here, Polecat, do remember, if you have any questions about PC gaming in general, or where you are in your process, do feel free to access at any point. At any point, either on the replays, or go back and watch some of the other live shows you were unable to attend and be present for, and check out the conversations at any time at in those live streams. If you have questions, do feel free to ask. Do be sure to make sure that you guys and gals have the notification bell checked on to catch those pop-up live streams. They're going to be real informal, still very much family friendly and oriented. Right now we're playing Alien Isolation as the pop-up live stream game of choice, if we're keeping it culture here at the channel. And for this brand, our pop-up live stream game of choice right now is Alien Isolation. So that's what we're playing, Alien Isolation. And it's a fun game. I enjoy it. I've been eager to play it. I haven't played it since the last pop-up live stream, and I just want to play it. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to play with you. So, yeah. But either way, everybody, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us during this live show. Do be sure to check out all of those things and more down in the description box below. But thanks for hanging out for this YouTube live show. I hope to catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy, and do be sure to still kick around and hang out in the chat for our post-credit hangout, where I jump over into the chat, or I pop up on the mic and still add commentary, and thank those of you who are here to chat that are still here for coming out. So yeah, thanks for hanging out for the YouTube live stream. I do hope to catch you all on the next one. So until then, be easy. Thanks for the kind words. I definitely appreciate it. Bad habits as well. It's always good to see you guys. You're here. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Anybody else who's still hanging out, in chat, live show, or live hangout. And if you're just now joining in, we are concluded the weekly live experience. You still feel free to hang out in the chat and answer any questions you might have missed. Or still, you're very much welcome to give the replay a watch, right? Go back and check out some of the conversation we shared and early at the beginning of this live show. All good stuff there. Yeah. No, it's good to see you, No. You missed the live show. But it's good to see you, No. Were you here? Were you lurking on us? Do let us know, fam. By the way, it's good to see you, No. Even for this last split second, though. It's good to see you, No.